And welcome back YouTube. Today I would like to talk to you about Stalker, Clear Sky. This is the second game in the Stalker series. It's basically a prequel to the first one. Now, in any Stalker game, the biggest attraction is the actual game world, the so-called zone. It is unsurpassed in design and a far better game world than Fallout's. Because the difference between the world of Fallout and the zone is that the latter is far more a dynamic place. By that I mean that the zone has a lot of different weather types with all kinds of anomalies, like these weird deformations of the landscape that are very dangerous, that also hide all these specific artifacts that are very useful. There are a lot of areas that are completely contaminated or toxic, with all the kinds of regular emissions where the sky sort of turns purple and this is great fallout and you need to take shelter in order to survive. Where all kinds of deadly mutated beasts want to rip off your face. So it's a very dangerous place, a place where all kinds of different factions fight each other for control over the zone, like these bandits that sort of pop up everywhere, and the autocratic duty and the freedom fighters and the loners. So you play as a stalker, a dude that scavenges the land for loot and anomalies, and it turns out that you can survive more or less the energy emissions, and that makes you the perfect candidate to track down another stalker who has this plan to get to the center of the zone. The problem is that if he reaches the center, that will disrupt the balance of the zone, killing everybody. So you're basically sent out there. But the story is kind of thin. It really boils down to chasing this guy across different areas of the zone, first-person shooter style, doing missions for different factions that you'll encounter. You know, these side missions are also not very engaging, usually involving capturing and holding a certain point on the map. And here's where the so-called faction war system comes into play. You know, as I said, there are different factions fighting each other, but the war that's going on, it feels sometimes artificial. For instance, at some point, you'll get the order to drive the bandits away from the central depot in the garage. Now, shortly after you've done that, the bandits will just respawn and take over the depot again. So taking away a lot of the feeling of accomplishment that you had when basically liberating the place. You know, in my experience, you cannot really defeat one faction. Things sort of balance out, which is part of the theme, I guess, but it's also, you know, it's just a kind of, I don't know, it doesn't feel right all the time. Now, there are other missions to do involving basically retrieving and returning all kinds of schematics for upgrades for your weapons. They are useful, but they are sort of repetitive. Now, the actual shooting in Stalker Clear Sky is just awesome, especially in the higher difficulty levels. It's brutally difficult, and that might put off a lot of people, but not me. This is really, I think, as realistic as a shooter can go, where just one bullet can really kill you, especially in the early stages where you have these crappy guns that with bad characteristics at your disposal, and there's a lot of misfiring during combat, so you need to reload your weapon at the most impossible times. And there's also armor that's really in crappy condition. You'll be hugging walls, spraying bullets in a general direction where you think an enemy might be hiding. You'll be frantically looting bodies for ammo and bandages and health kits and so forth. These are some of the similar survival mechanics as in DayZ, only that Stalker was, of course, first with this. So I can't imagine that DayZ was not inspired by the Stalker game series. Gradually, you'll make more money. You'll find weapons, you'll sell weapons, you can invest in better weapons, upgrade your weapons with all kinds of extras like magazines, like stabilizers, scopes, etc. You can also buy better armors, and I also almost forgot, you can find all these rare artifacts, usually hiding in these dangerous anomalies. that have positive and negative effects, usually radiation, on you. So you really need to balance. Yes, again, balance is basically the key word in this review and the game of Stalker Clear Sky. But you have to balance these artifacts very carefully for the best results. So if you have an artifact that sort of increases your weight, the carrying weight statistic usually has a minus something radiation, so you need another artifact that will sort of counter the radiation effect. That's basically how it goes. And you're gonna need those artifacts later on in the game where it becomes a lot more difficult because the areas will be more hazardous. Enemies are a lot harder to kill, they have better gear as well. And talking about the enemies, they have very good AI. It's just amazing. I mean, enemies are never alone. They will get back up. They'll try to flank you. They'll throw grenades. I think it's the best AI I've ever experienced in any shooter game. Now, there are a good bunch of mods for this game, and they'll fix especially the bugs that the game shipped with, and add some high-res textures to buildings and things. So there's a lot of customization going on there. In my opinion, this is not so much a game as it is an experience, and it comes really highly recommended. So thank you for watching, and hope you'll have fun playing Stalker Clear Sky as much as I did.